the IMF is projecting a serious slowdown for Ghana, forecasting a growth rate of 1.5% by the end of the year. Let's bring in Joy Business Assistant Editor JoyNews, who has been looking into this latest report by the IMF. George, what's the basis for this projection?
Well, Daryl, if you go through that interim update that they actually carried out, it is based on the fact that revenue actually is going to decline. And if revenue is going to decline, that would have an impact on growth, because depending on what the fiscal service is going to use, whether they're going to use the income approach, how much you are earning, Daryl, if they're going to use the production approach in terms of how production would actually look like, or if they're actually going to look at other approaches as well, they believe that all these things are going to decline, and that would impact on how growth will fare for this year. Also, don't forget that because of the coronavirus, Daryl, demand for our commodities are going to actually decline. So all those things will impact on economic growth in the country. And that is why, based on all these scenarios, analysis, and some would say extrapolations, they are saying that growth will slow to 1.5% for this year. But interesting, that is in line, Daryl, with what government itself has projected. When the finance minister went to Parliament to give us an update on the situation or the economic situation, the finance minister said that they are looking at growing at 1.5%. Now, that is slightly lower than what the Bank of Ghana is projecting. They are projecting a 2.5%. It looks like the Bank of Ghana is quite optimistic about things doing well, but the finance ministry, it is not. And that is in tandem with what the IMF is projecting for this year.
And George, I know 1.5% economic growth rate is tangible, right? But we also know that economies around the world are in a recession. So how much of a big deal is this really?
Well, Daryl, if you also even look at the sub-region itself, our 1.5 projection even is better than our peers. And it tells you that it looks like things might not be that bad in terms of our economic growth going forward. So it is a big deal because, Daryl, you want to look at purposes of planning, how this would impact on government policies and measures that they want to introduce. For businesses out there, for investors also, they want to look at how the economy will fare for a year, so that if I bring in quite huge capital, would I be making some good returns on that money? For you and I, of course, if the economy expands, you're going to look at per capita income improving, meaning that you have quite disposable income to purchase as well. So yeah, it's more of purposely for planning purpose, if I should use that. And for those investors out there who might want to move in some capital, and how that could also impact on their returns. So it is not a big deal, but it's a big deal, because then it means the government may have to do more to try and stimulate the economy, because the more the economy grows, the more revenue government gets. And in your previous stories that you've carried out, you've talked about how revenue is not doing well. And the governor himself said that things has to be done, a lot more things has to be done to improve revenue, and it's very, very critical, Daryl.
No matter how you look at it, it's no good, George. So we're also getting an idea what our inflation rate may be like at the end of the year. Let's juxtapose that to the cost of living.
Well, Daryl, it looks like from the IMF's own projection, we'll still be in the single digits band by the end of this year. Don't forget that over the last 2 months, we've seen inflation soar critically, and people are worried about how things will look like. It might look like things will slow a little bit, and they are projecting a 9.7% growth rate for Ghana by December this year. So it looks like things might not be that bad. Maybe as the restrictions are eased and government also introduce some measures in place, things might improve a little bit for us. So it means that things won't get bad in terms of looking at the current rate of how general price levels are going. There might be some slowdown, just like what the fiscal service said the other time at the press conference that he expects things to slow down. It looks like the IMF also agrees with government. They agrees with the Ghana fiscal service in terms of things slowing down when it comes to the general price levels at the end of this year, Daryl.
I like your optimism, George, but quick one, what is government saying about all of this?
Well, in terms of direct response, the finance minister says that they are going to put in place some new measures in terms of revenue, and they believe that that would help do the trick for us in terms of improving the situation. If revenue picks up, it looks like then government is going to spend. When government spends, that will stimulate several sectors of the economy. And if you stimulate the economy, obviously, the growth that you're looking for would happen. So he believes that quickly improve the revenue measures, look at tightening it up more electronic measures, do other things as well that will improve the revenue that they get. If revenue picks up quickly in the next 2 or 3 months, government might ensure that capital projects will not suffer because they would invest in those critical sectors, and that could bring about the required growth that we are all looking forward to. And that's why we are all looking up to the mid-year review estimate as well as the supplementary budget. And some of these measures the minister says he will outline when it goes before Parliament, that is next month.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, George, for that input.